Hello and welcome, punters, to the first ever long-form, good-form preview of the Breeders' Crown. I wanted to have Cody Winnell alongside me, as he normally is on a Friday, to go through all the form for this incredible program, Super Saturday night at Tabcorp Park Melton, featuring 8 Group 1s. Unfortunately, he couldn't be with us here for personal reasons, so I have got a co-host, and I'm really happy with the bloke I've been able to find to join me. I think he's the best judge in the game, actually, and he's a very good bloke as well. So here he is, and that's right, just me, Bon and Jason here to try and take you through this preview, and hopefully, after pouring through the form, even though you'll only get the one opinion, it's an opinion based on sitting through and pouring over the form for the last, I guess, couple of days as we've headed towards Super Saturday night, this grand final program for the age-restricted paces in Victoria. Really looking forward to getting stuck into it. Remember that whatever we talk about here today on this preview video, you can get on Punters Paradise, magnificently put together. In fact, I won't be able to get through half of what's on Punters Paradise. There you get the preview videos for the tab, so you can digest them in smaller formats if you like. Flux, you get speed maps, you get Blake Redden's opinion, which is all important, of course. He'll also show you a little bit later on this video how to operate Punters Paradise, so really looking forward to getting stuck into that. But for now, let's do the form. Race 1 on the program is not a Breeders' Crown race, but it is an intriguing affair. It is a rating 70 to 89, Always Be Mickey Breeders' Crown Graduate Cup. So it's not a Breeders' Crown final or championship at group level, but it's still a really intriguing race. I'm ultimately going to settle on looking at the price of this race. So in each of the events that we preview, we're sort of going to highlight why we've gone the way we have in terms of a suggested bet for each race. And in this case, it's the price. Map first, though, of course. Tabcorp Kid will get across the pole marker, Royal Hustler, very easily at the start. He's normally a horse who races better with a sit, and there will be pressure brought to bear here from Maestro Bellini, and also High Rolling, who can come out on roller skates on her night. We saw that, of course, last weekend at Bendigo in the Breeders' Crown Graduate Mares Free-for-All, where she was able to comfortably cross Nostrovilla. I think that Maestro Bellini will ultimately bully his way to the front. Tabcorp Kid will accept the trail. High Rolling will be up on the premises early doors, but she's not a breeze horse. And in fact, there's nothing off the front line that is a breeze horse. Now, that's why I've come to the conclusion that Rock and Roll Eyes will get off the inside from his gate age, or at least Glenn Douglas will whip around. And as soon as the pressure comes out of the race, and I reckon it'll be a fast first quarter, the pressure goes straight back on again, because Rock and Roll Eyes is a one-paced warrior. He's very, very strong. He likes to get up outside the leader and try and dictate terms from there. And that's why I think we're going to run a fast mile rate, sub 154 at very least, maybe around the 153 flat, which is going to hurt a lot of these horses because they're not used to doing that. I've ultimately gone with TCB McRae, I should say, as my on-top selection in this race. 4, 8, 2 and 3 are my numbers. But in terms of a suggested bet, I'm telling you to back Rock and Roll Eyes each way, and this is because race 1 is price dependent. I marked Rock and Roll Eyes at $3.20. You're currently getting something around the $10 mark for Rock and Roll Eyes in the tab. And I just think if you go back through his previous runs around that Metropolitan level, he's been able to do it tough. He came from 3 poles and won one night. He's been there, done that at a high level, where a number of these others that are among his rivals probably haven't. Maestro Bellini, if he got the favours in front, could run a big race. Tabcorp Kid's going to be in the perfect spot, as we've outlined. And TCB McRae, I think he'll lob a lot closer to the speed than normal, and that's going to help him use that dramatic turn of speed that he has at the finish of his race as well. But Rock and Roll Eyes is the better betting proposition because he's twice the price of TCB McRae. So race 1, price dependent, Rock and Roll Eyes the way to go on an each way basis, or if you're feeling very conservative and worried about losing cash so early in the program, maybe 1 by 3. Second event on the card. The first of our Group 1s, the Father Patrick at Neville started Breeders' Crown final for the 2-year-old, or I should say the 3-year-old trotting fillies here. And it's a high quality race and a very tricky race because so much of the class is drawn outside the second row. Liberty Stride had the socials buzzing, didn't she, when she won first up on Australian soil, lost maybe 70, 80 metres at the start in a race where she was far superior to her rivals. And just as she was tacking on, you were thinking, it's going to be a big run here. She's going to finish forward of midfield, and then she just cruised past them in the concluding stages. It was an enormous win and got everyone buzzing. Went then to the Victoria Trotters Derby against the boys, and unfortunately, first crack at the mobile, didn't like it. Galloped early, threw away her chances, but in the heat of this Breeders' Crown series, she was very, very good, and you can see that now. She's whipping around, I'd say she was 25 metres off the lead in the middle stages. She's made a long sustained run wider out on the track. Sunny's Little Jestic got the perfect run through. I Am Pegasus pulled a little bit hard in front. This is a critical form reference race, not only for Liberty Stride, but for all the key chances here. My top 3 are all coming out of this qualifier. But Liberty Stride made up so much ground, had to do much more work than Sunny's Little Jestic, and I just think she'll be driven more aggressively at Tabcorp Park Melton on Saturday night this evening, and for that reason she's my on-top selection. And I reckon 260 is an okay price for Liberty Stride. I marked her 220, and I'm usually, if anything, marking them slightly longer in their favourites than they should be in the Herald Sun and on hardest.org.au. So I reckon 220 was slightly generous, 260 is very generous for mine. I've got her on top of I Am Pegasus, who has her biggest weapon taken away from her, doesn't she? She's a gate speed trotter, and from the second line, she's going to have to do things a different way. Is she good enough to do the work and still win? Of course she is, but it just makes things so much harder. Sunny's Little Jestic, that was no fluke winning a heat of this series, and I'll tell you what, if she can stay in front of Liberty Stride early, that's going to play heavily into her chances of being able to knock the favourite over. And I've thrown in for 4th Emerald Stride, a multiple Group 1 winner, but you've got Royal Charlotte there who might blaze off the arm. She's got to be in the mix somewhere, and even Orlando Storm, if you're playing really wide in early quarters, is worthy of inclusion. But if you want one bet in the race, I reckon Liberty Stride is the way to go. All right, we've made a start 2 races into the preview of this long-form, good-form preview of Breeders' Crown Super Saturday night at Tabcorp Park Melton. But just to give you a guide on how to use the app and how to use the website, I should say, for Punters Paradise, here's my mate, Blake Redden, taking us through exactly how to access all of the key features on Punters Paradise for what will be an awesome night of racing at Victorian Harness Headquarters.
All right, Trots fans, it's time to have an in-depth look again at Punters Paradise because we're going bigger, we're going better. There's more there for everyone this weekend for the Breeders' Crown Finals. It's going to be a spectacular weekend of racing, and if you need any information whatsoever, then this is the place to go. Thetrots.com.au, you click on the menu, and you'll see the racing tab there. First thing up, Punters Paradise. Give that a whirl, and it'll open you to this page, and there's all your options. You'll see a preview show down the bottom there available on Friday afternoon with Jason Bonnington. That'll be as detailed as information as you'll find anywhere in the world this weekend on the races. But just to have a look at these, you've got race guides, as we sort of probably are becoming aware of now, for Friday and Saturday. Just take note, Saturday will be out on Friday morning, so not quite there yet, but keep tuned for those Saturday morning race guides. But if we have a look at the Friday, just give it a click on race 1, and it will have the speed maps there from Jason Bonnington, all his tips, his form, comment. This is really good information, this part here, isn't it? The gate speed of the horses involved off the front row, as well as their patterns. And there's a little key there down the bottom: sit, sprinter, versatile, enforcer, leader. Some really good information there. Prices rated by Jason Bonnington. His selections, along with mine as well, for each of the races on Friday and Saturday night. Suggested bet. There's those speed maps down the bottom there. Plenty to take note of on that page. If we just jump backwards, and once you get past those race guides, you can go and have a look at video replays, and this is a great addition to the site. If you click on any of the divisions, it will show you all of the replays through the semi-finals. There's our Road to Mecca winning beating Bazinga, and you go down and have a look at the second semi-final, but also the heats, so you can compare all of these fillies having competed against each other through the heats and semi-finals. Same for every division, you can see there for the trotters and pacers side by side. That's an excellent part of the Punters Paradise website. Driver stats, self-explanatory there, isn't it? But the best drivers are, across the last 12 months at Tabcorp Park Melton that are engaged on the program. Same story for trainer stats. Easy to flick back and forth between these with that top bar, that top piece of information. Barrier stats, again, excellent information. You'll get your percentages there if you turn your screen sideways, but otherwise the wins and the starts. Market fluctuations, most important, and you can already see there, No Apache Me's been heavily backed this week, $5 into $1.85, the biggest supported runner on the program. Art Series for Saturday is the other one, $7.50 into $2.50, so that's really important information there for all your best backed market movers across the card. Podcast preview, this one's straightforward as well. You'll see just behind this, if you click on these podcasts, inside word from Emma Stewart and Brent Lilly in terms of all their key chances across the weekend. Preview show I mentioned with Jason Bonnington. Stay tuned for that a little later in the week. Tab specials, a couple of ripping ones here. That'll take you straight to the Tab website. website, but they'll be up very shortly. And also the Good Form game plan, just jump onto that link there and you'll be able to have a look at all of Jason's tips for Friday and Saturday as the week progresses. But plenty of information. You've been able to get an insight look on how to use it all, jump into all those parts of Punters Paradise. I'm sure you'll get some tips out of it. You'll form your own opinion, and hopefully you'll be able to find a winner at Tabcorp Park Melton over the weekend. It's going to be a cracking weekend of racing. Punters Paradise, the hub you can see there. That's the best place to be if you want some information on the trot. So jump on to thetrots.com.au, flick through that menu to racing, then Punters Paradise. You'll be at the hub, and hopefully you have a good weekend on the punt, and it's a successful weekend as we wind down the trotting season with the Breeders' Crown Finals.
Welcome back to this one-man good form preview of Breeders' Crown Super Saturday night at Tabcorp Park Melton. We're 2 races in. Time to attack the third. Another Group 1 as you would expect. The Aldebaran Park Breeders' Crown Final for the 2-year-old trotting colts and geldings at Group 1 level as mentioned. 7, 1, 3 and 8 are my numbers here. Look, it's an intriguing race this from a map perspective and tactically because I reckon there's going to be heat early. Is that a Bid's Drawn 1? 2, Dreamy, Quick Beginner, both of them. Also, Powder Keg can run off the gate. I think they're going to engage in their own little wrestle war battle at the start of this race. I'm suspecting Is That a Bid, who has gone to the next level, despite being, very impressive right throughout his juvenile preparation. Is That a Bid is getting better and better at the right time. And I think from the pole marking draw, Zach Phillips, one of the best young drivers we've seen in Victoria for the past decade, will be able to hold the front. All the while, Ultimate Stride will just be balancing up from a wide front line draw and then cruising across to either attack for the front or settle for the position outside the leader. We're just going to have a quick look at the Redwood Classic here. This is the only time these two horses have met. Is That a Bid and Ultimate Stride, the two key chances in the race. On this occasion, Is That a Bid led but was harassed. If not mercilessly, then given a really hard time in front. Ultimate Stride got a great trip, terrific drive from Anthony Butt, got him into the 1-1, peeled at the right time just before the turn and was able to ultimately get the better of Is That a Bid. But Is That a Bid, my estimation of Is That a Bid went higher than my estimation of Ultimate Stride there because I already thought that Ultimate Stride was clearly the best 2-year-old of this generation in terms of the ones that would be competing in the Breeders' Crown, but certainly I felt they got closer there, and by both of them winning their respective qualifiers for this Breeders' Crown series, it's become a race where it went from a 1-horse race to a 2-horse race very quickly, and I do think Is That a Bid can win, but I am going with Ultimate Stride on top. I just think if he's able to maybe bully his way to the front, that Is That a Bid will not outping him. And even from the breeze, if Anthony Butt can dictate terms and tempo, I think ultimately that strength that he has from all those runs in New Zealand and the fact that he's just such a powerful young trotter, that he will get the better of Is That a Bid. But it wouldn't surprise me to see them draw right away here and engage in quite an epic duel on race 3 on this magnificent Saturday or Super Saturday night program. If there's to be an upset, where will it come from? Well, I don't think there'll be one for a start, but Powder Keg is too good to totally ignore, and if he can get across the pole marker at the start, obviously his chances exponentially explode. I'm Daddy Warbucks probably can't win, but has run so many good races at such a high level and will get a gun trip here that it won't be too far away. And Andover Sun, who was probably the dominant 2-year-old trotter in Victoria early doors, has to be thrown into the winning mix somewhere as well. But primarily, if you're playing those early quaddies and you want to try and simplify this race, I'd only be including numbers 1 and 7. I'm very confident one of the two will win, and the suggested bet in the race is probably to play exotics here and base your thoughts around Ultimate Stride winning and Is That a Bid probably running second. 7, 1, 3 and 8 in the third race of the program. Finally, the Pacers get their go. Race 4 on the card. The 3-year-old pacing fillies here, and we see a champion filly. I do not use that term lightly. Our Princess Tiffany is an abject, absolute superstar. Unfortunately, at heat level of this series on a very wet track at Kilmore, she went well below herself and she was unwanted at semi-final level. She was drifting by 10 cents every 10 seconds in the lead up to her semi-final, but Luke McCarthy drove her like she was the best filly in the race at semi-final level, and ultimately she was way too good for her rivals. The race I do want to focus on here, though, is the South East Oaks up in Queensland at Albion Park during their carnival, and I'll tell you why. Because in that race, Our Princess Tiffany tackled Miss Streisand, and it was Miss Streisand at her best. Miss Streisand led on this occasion. Our Princess Tiffany worked up, and they engaged in an epic duel. Halfway down the back, they started to really let rip raw. Fast third quarter. Our Princess Tiffany looked under pressure, and ultimately it was only her enormous class that got her over the line. Now, that's not the first time that Miss Streisand has run a massive race against high quality opposition in front. You only have to go back to the Victoria Oaks heat, where it took Belle of Montana all of the Tabcorp Park straight to run her down. The critical factor here, two really. Does Miss Streisand roll the dice here and try and lead and park our Princess Tiffany? And is Miss Streisand capable of turning around her form in this series so far and improving enough to get back to that level she was at in the Victoria Oaks heat and the South East Oaks up there in Queensland? I'm going to say yes, I'm willing to believe she can from the pole marking draw. So that's why she's a clear second pick. And that's why I'm really confident our Princess Tiffany wins the race. But she's probably more like a $1.30 shot for mine, maybe $1.20 shot than she is the $1.08 that she's likely to start. But our Princess Tiffany clearly the one to beat. And if you're playing exotics here, you sort of had to go 3 to beat one sort of situation and then play a little bit wider for third. I'd be including Bazinga, who was an improved run last time out. Best Western, who's absolutely thriving through this Breeders' Crown Series. And Enchanted Stride, who seems to run magnificent races every time it gets to the big dance. So David Miles knows how to peak Enchanted Stride. Can she win? No. Can she add value to exotics? Absolutely. Numbers 3, 1, 5 and 4, shorty to win. The first of the pacing Group 1s on Super Saturday night at Tabcorp Park Melton. First leg of the quaddie is an absolute cracker. It's the first of the championships. The High Gain Breeders' Crown Championship for four-year-old Enties and Geldings at Group 2 level. My numbers here, 12, 5, 7 and 11. First the map here, it is going to be an epic start to the race. Wardan's got electric early toe. Well, maybe not electric, but very good early toe. Often leads in his races when he wants to, but he will be followed forward by both Major Times and Rack 'em Up Tiger Pie. I would say 80% confident that Wardan's got the early speed to find the pegs first and to keep the lead if Greg Sugars so desires. I think that Major Times will have a little dip, but once he can't get the front, he will then relent the position outside the leader or cede to that position going to Rack 'em Up Tiger Pie, who's run enormous races when doing a little labour in the past, including that Ballarat Cup where he ran second. So the map now goes. You've got Wardan in front, who's never handed up once he has found the front under race conditions. Rack 'em Up Tiger Pie, the heavily backed favourite in the breeze. 1-1 Major Times. Then Tam Major, who's used to being up on the premises, having to make a sustained, long, powerful 3-wide run. And the horse, I reckon, who's going to latch onto his back, and you can see from the map still on screen there, Maritai. And every time I run this race in my head, even though there's 5 or 6 winning chances, I can't help thinking Maritai's just going to win the race. He's had a magnificent preparation so far. He's a Terrain Cup winner. I just think if he is the one that's Johnny on the spot 3 wide with the cart, and they will have gone brutal tempo in front, I wouldn't be surprised if they give the track record a nudge here in the first leg of the quaddie. Then Maritai will tip, roll, and I reckon potentially blow this field away. So he's the way to play the race. Straight at the win, Maritai, just get aggressive and hope that map that I've outlined, that plays out or realises itself in reality. But definitely the dangers I've already outlined. I reckon number 5, Major Times, is going to be a big price here for a horse who will enjoy being hunter rather than hunted. You've got Tam Major and Rack 'em Up Tiger Pie, who can both do any amount of labour in their races and still be there at the finish. And Wardan, who will need to provide a career best performance to win this race, but he is going particularly well for Dean Braun at the moment, so I wouldn't leave him entirely out. I'll tell you what, even the Black Prince and 3 Summers will have their supporters, but ultimately, if I'm going to push you into one bet here, it's one of my best value bets in the program, and it is Maritai. The trainer of Maritai, and in fact also Tam Major and Major Times in that first leg of the quaddie, is Emma Stewart. And to get her thoughts on both that race and her runners right across this program, Blake Redden chatted to her on the phone earlier in the week.
Breeders' Crown night on Saturday, and Emma Stewart has a whole host of runners, as per usual on these sort of nights, and she joins us for Inside Word. Emma, we'll kick off with the 3-year-old fillies race 4 on the card. I thought Victoria Brew was really good in her heat and looking fabulous. She's drawn out the back. So can you split those in terms of better winning chance?
They're probably going to both struggle. Hopefully one of them will run to a place. But, it's a fair big step up for Victoria Brew. And looking fabulous is drawn terrible. So as long as they're hitting the line hard, I'll be happy with their run.
What did you make of looking fabulous' semi-final run? I thought her heat was probably solid without being totally conclusive. Did you think that she could have finished a bit stronger in the semi-final, or just the way the race was run, it didn't work out?
It's probably the way the race is run that's sort of her, she's no star, but she does try. So, I wasn't disappointed in her run.
In the 4-year-old boys final for the Pacers, Major Times draws the front row. I suspect that Tam Major and Maritai are the two best winning chances from the stable. Would that be right?
Yeah, I think so. I think you'll see an improved run from Major Times this week, though. He's sort of a run short last week. So he'll sort of be holding up the front, and, the other two, have been racing in good form. So, yeah, they're definitely the two of mine to beat.
Yeah, can you split those? Tam Major's probably been through that Vic Bred Super Series where he was so good there. Maritai's a bit fresher. Is there much between them?
No, there's not much. I probably prefer Tam Major. He sort of never runs a bad race, and he always tries harder. So if I had to pick one, I'd probably be Tam Major.
Excellent. In the 3-year-old boys, the Glamour division, I guess Demon Delight was so impressive in his semi-final. Out to play a building performance, and Brevity was really good, always fast. I suppose the market says Demon Delight, then out to play. Is that the way you read it in terms of best chances?
Yeah, I think so. If out to play can lob handy and can sort of come with one late run, I think he's definitely probably our hardest one to beat. Demon Delight can do a little bit too much in his runs sometimes, and he has to do too much work. So if he's the same as out to play, if he gets a nice run, he's definitely his runs have been super. But I really find it hard to split Demon Delight and out to play.
Brevity's really strong, I guess. Is that barrier draw going to hurt him greatly, or can he try and fire forward and do something early?
I think he'll fire forward. He's a tough horse and he keeps going all day. So he's definitely a place chance. He just never seems to be sort of get the luck to win a race like this. So he's definitely a place chance for mine. In
the 2-year-old boys, 4 key runners, I guess. Be Happy Mac, the best of those, has drawn the poorest, but he's done nothing wrong so far.
No, he hasn't. I think he's a star, and I think he's probably our best winning chance of the day. I know the draw is terrible, but a good horse can sort of overcome that. So fingers crossed he can.
Can Pacifico Dream turn around? He obviously pulled pretty hard early, and things just didn't go his way in the semi-final. Is he capable of turning around quickly, or a bit hard?
Yeah, no, I think he is. We changed a bit of gear this week, and he works pretty good. So he's definitely Be Happy Max danger, I think, because if the right one turns up, he's definitely going to be coming home strong.
The 2-year-old fillies, Margita's sort of asserted herself now, I guess, as the best. She sat parked in the Vic Bred Super Series, was too strong for them. Treasure wasn't there, though, and Treasure, I thought, was a really good performance in her semi-final, but the barrier draws probably cruelled her winning chance.
Yeah, it probably has, but she really tried hard and races hard. And, I thought her run last week was terrific. The way the race was run, she sort of had no hope. So I thought her run was probably as good as a winner's. So she's definitely a winning chance. Margita's got the draw, though, and she sort of seems to get the job done. But my personal favourite is Amelia Rose, and she slots in, handy and can sort of come with one really late run. She'll be all over the top of them.
Excellent. That's good information. And last on the card, the 4-year-old mare's Nostravilla. Look, I don't know that she was probably as impressive as she's been last time at Bendigo, but she still got the job done. The barrier draw's not ideal. Is she still clearing away the best horse, or do you get pretty nervous with a horse like Art Series coming down from New South Wales?
No, not really. Nostravilla's never been impressive, in any of her wins, I don't think, so I wouldn't take too much out of that. Sort of, she had her ears pricked in the last 100, so she only does what she sort of has to, and, I think she's definitely the best horse in the race.
Very good, and very briefly, Friday night, obviously, all the runners in one race. I think Born to Rock and Roll's been the best packed of those, but Chris Alford sticks, or you've put Chris Alford on the pole marker Rock and Roll icon?
Yeah, I think I really like this horse, and his work this week's been super. Born to Rock and Roll, I think he's a Grand Circuit horse in the making, and I think Rock and Roll Icon is too. But he's got the draw, and I think I think he's my best winning hope.
Rock and Roll Icon, that was.
Yeah, Rock and Roll Icon. Yep.
Very good. And Phoenix Prince is just the barrier draw probably doesn't help him.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. But he's done a super job this season. So I'll be really interested to see what he does up against these better ones.
Thanks for your time, Emma, and good luck with all the runners across the weekend.
No worries. Thank you.
Great insight there from the Baker boy, and also Emma Stewart, Victoria and Australia's leading trainer at the moment. I can't say I totally agree with some of both Blake's analysis of some of the runners that Emma has, or even Emma's. So we're all at our opinion, and I guess Punters out there, you get the opportunity to stick with Emma. She knows the horses best that she's working with. Blake's got his opinion on a number of these horses. Big fan of Out to Play, of course, which we'll get to pretty soon. And I'm really keen on Maritai and also Demon Delight, but we'll also get to that pretty soon when we touch on the 3-year-old Colts and Geldings final. Before we get to that, we go to the second leg of the quaddy race 6 on the card, the What the Hill Breeders' Crown final for the 3-year-old trotting Colts and Geldings. And here's my best bet on the program. And little spoiler alert here. I've got a reasonable futures bet on Majestuoso, so potentially my opinion is being just narrowly biased here, trying to find a little bit of confirmation bias, hoping to find reasons why you'll win the race. But you don't have to look too far, do you? Let's have a quick look at the Victoria Trotters Derby final at Maryborough on Redwood Day. Majestuoso here was absolutely majestic. Somehow came from last. I know there was reasonable tempo in the race, but the way he wins this affair, using his electric, sustained, awesome, untrotter-like speed, more pacer-like speed to rip past his rivals and not just win, but utterly blow very similar rivals to those he'll meet at Tabcorp Park on Super Saturday night away. Now he draws outside the second row again here. He's outside the draw. He's off the unruly. But I'll tell you what, he'll give you some heart attacks, or at least heart flutters, palpitations, a touch of angina in transit here because of the way he races. I don't think he'll make a dramatic mid-race move. I reckon he could. I don't think he will. I think he'll come with that one big sustained run that he's become, synonymous with of recent times, and he will win the race, but he'll be back in the field. You just hope he doesn't make an early error. I mentioned in the form comment, he's like that mate that stood you up one time and you're just scared, even though it was a while back and he's been really good to you recently, that he might stand you up again. Fingers and toes crossed, it won't be denied. Majestuoso, if he brings his A game, they won't beat him. It doesn't matter where he settles. He can settle last and he'll just be too fast for them up the lane. I'll tell you what helps Majestuoso in this race as well. All of his major dangers, bar High Valley Klitschy, are drawn awkwardly for their racing pattern. So all cashed up who's used to leading in races. Ledden beat Majestuoso in a heat of this series, and Ledden gave him, well, not a scare, but Ledden led for a long way in the Victoria Trotters Derby. Deep on the second row here, doesn't get the opportunity to find the front. You've got a horse like Just Believe, who I think is one of the major dangers. Second row draw means, though, it's going to get back in transit. I think he's a very, very underrated horse, Just Believe. A lot of people think Jebek's going to be a major player in this race. I think the gate one draw, the pole marking draw, is far more curse than blessing. He's a horse without very good gate speed. I think he'll get crossed at least once, maybe twice. I've actually got him crossed 3 times in this race, so I've got a good feeling Jebek's going to get himself into an awful spot in transit. High Valley Klitschy's the one who looks well placed. Gate 3, because he's starting to have some behavioural issues at the moment, and he's not a really fluent trotter. I don't think he'll be rushed off the arm, but I think the way the front line is comprised, he will eventually get to the top, and once he gets there, he'll be the hardest horse to beat for mine. I've got him in for second. I've got Just Believe for third and all cashed up for fourth. But as mentioned, as long as they don't crawl in front, Majestuoso will find a way to use that dynamic, freakish speed in a trotter. I haven't seen too many trotters in the past 10 years of any age group with more natural point-to-point speed than Majestuoso, and I think that will be the critical ingredient to getting him over the line tonight. He's the way to play the race straight out. Yours for theirs, it seems a gift. Race 7 on the program. I reckon if we did a family feud Vox Pop, a bit of a survey, more than 80% of respondents would tell you that this is the race of the night. I reckon the 4-year-old Enticing Geldings and the 2-year-old boys, which we'll get to soon, would match it. But I tell you what, this is a crazy good race. And when you consider that there's no Hurricane Harley, no Centenario, no Self Assured, this is a super draft to still put together so many outstanding horses. What do we know about this race? Only one thing really, and that's that Max Delight will find the front from gate 2. Don't worry about that. He'll be zipping across and getting there very, very comfortably, and there'll be no lead for anybody else, I don't believe, once he gets there. Always fast, there's a bit of early toe. Fighties might have a little dip. Not sure what Brevity will do. Out to Play will float out. Demon Delight, my top tip in the race, and we'll have a look at the prices for the race now. Demon Delight is my top tip. He follows through with the scratching of the emergency Max Delight, which means he will lob right up on the premises. I'd say within the first 4 or 5 soon after the start, and he's been better than $3 almost all the way through betting. I marked him in my price as $2.80, and as previously referenced, I thought that was a little bit generous. He's probably more a $2.60 chance, I reckon. So we're getting overs about Demon Delight and have all the way through betting. I think he should have been favourite. He might be favourite pretty soon. So that old adage, bet early to avoid disappointment. I've got him slicing through and staying in front of Lochinvarade, who I reckon is his major danger. And if that happens, Kate Geth gets the opportunity to have, gets options at least. Does she stay in the running line and try and use his speed? Maybe. I think it's more likely she'll whip around at some point when the speed drops, get outside of Max Delight and then dictate terms from there. Because I reckon Max Delight, if he has a little chink in his armour, it's if he's leading and he gets mercilessly hammered at some point. I just think there's a little chink there, and I reckon Demon Delight will expose it. Having said that, if Lochinvarade gets even equal fortune to Demon Delight or a touch more somehow for Laura Crosland and David Moran, he's a clear and present danger. I have got concerns that psychologically it must be getting very hard for him running seconds and thirds in big races, because he's going to start to get used to running second and third, but he's an outstanding horse, Lochinvarade. He was my tip going into this series, and I reckon if he gets the right run, he can win the race, but it doesn't end there, does it? Malcolm's Rhythm is too big a price. If they run crazy time here, then Malcolm's Rhythm is peaking at exactly the perfect time to win a Breeders' Crown, and he gets the services of Kima Frenny to try and help him do exactly that. So, Gate 7 draw looks bad on paper, but the price is ridiculous. It's an overreaction to the draw. I've got Max Delight in for fourth. Of course he can win the race, but I just think he's vulnerable if he has to try and lead all the way. And I wasn't super enamoured with his run at semi-final level of this series. And Blake Redden's boy out to play. He can win the race too, don't worry about that. I just think that he needs to settle close enough, because he's been good through the Breeders' Crown, nursed through it, but I don't think the runs have been quite as explosive as they were through the Vic Bred Super Series, particularly that semi-final run where he got dragged back to 20 metres off the lead but was still able to zip through and win. He'd need to get back to that level and quickly and settle close enough. So he's got a couple of things against him out to play, but he's a very good horse, a Group 1 winner as we know, so don't leave him out. But if you're having one bet in the race, there's an overs there, and it is on Demon Delight for Pam and Russell Hockham and also Emma Stewart. Final leg of the quaddie at Tabcorp Park on Super Saturday is the Down by the Seaside Breeders' Crown final for the 2-year-old colts and geldings. And before the draw, it was a one-horse race. Be Happy Mac was just going to win, dominant in his heat from the breeze, dominant in his semi-final after making a mid-race move and finding the lead. Then he drew gate 13 and everything changed. Well, everything flipped on its head, didn't it? Not only because he drew gate 13, but because two untapped Kiwis, it has to be said, drew perfectly in 1 and 4. They are Perfect Stride and Zeus Bromac respectively. Now, people saw Perfect Stride lead and win at semi-final level of this series last weekend. I am exceedingly confident, uber confident, that he'll be handing up to Zeus Bromac here. So you've got the two exciting Kiwis, leader behind the leader. Zeus Bromac dominating at the top end. Perfect Stride in a better position for him, I reckon, following the speed behind the leader. There'll be plenty of horses wanting to get up on the premises after those horses find lead and trail, but ultimately, Be Happy Mac will whip around and find the position outside the leader, and you can see on the map there, it's a beautiful map, because I reckon all the key chances are going to be at the top end. That's going to happen quite a bit tonight, but there is no race where it will be more evident than in this 2-year-old colts and geldings final. So look for Zeus Bromac to lead. As soon as Be Happy Mac makes his move, I reckon Zach Butcher will get on his bike and keep them running, and when Be Happy Mac gets the breeze, I think he's going to want to keep them running as well, because I think he's going to want to try and crush Zeus Bromac. I have taken the coward's way out, and I'm mildly disgusted with myself that I'm tipping Be Happy Mac on top. But I'll tell you what, this is the best exotic betting race in the card, because you level stake the three main chances. Perfect Stride's a huge hope of outpinging them here if you get that mid-race pressure that I've just outlined. And Zeus Bromac, Zachary Butcher's got a big opinion of this horse, and if he leads and holds the lead, fingers crossed he doesn't hand up to Be Happy Mac through the middle stages, then he can win the race as well. He beat Perfect Stride the last time they met, the only time they met in New Zealand not too long ago. So it's an almost level stake race here, 1-3-14 into 1-3-14. Play pretty wide for third, looking for value. Include Pacifico Dream, who'll get a gun peg line run. You Are My Sunshine, Miragon, and also Star Hunter. So it's a 3 into 7 sort of affair. $30 will get you 100%. And you really just have to hope that Be Happy Mac gets beaten. And to be honest, I think there's a great chance that could happen. All right, let's take a breather. I certainly need one doing the solo good form preview of Breeders' Crown Night at Tabcorp Park Melton. Have a little break, and then I'll come back with my quaddie numbers for the card. Welcome back to this good form, long form preview of the Breeders' Crown Night at Tabcorp Park Melton. We're pretty deep in, aren't we? 8 races in. It's time to take a little bit of a sabbatical, a pause, and look at the quaddie numbers, because if you don't get involved in the quaddie tonight, I'm not 100% sure what you're doing with the evening. 3, 5, 7, 11 and 12 in the first leg. I'm playing 2 quaddies, but in both quaddies, I'll have all of those horses engaged. Warden only narrowly sneaks into the quaddie there, but I'm playing 5 wide because I don't want to be out in the first leg. It'd be devastating. So 3, 5, 7, 11, 12, even though Maritai's my top tip in the race. 13 one out Majestuoso, largely chips in with him in the second leg of the quaddie, though we will be playing a saver where he's not involved. Third leg of the quaddie, 2, 4, 7, 10 and 11. That 3-year-old Colts and Geldings final, I think, is far more open than the market might suggest. And in the final leg of the quaddie, I'm level staking 1, 4 and 13. So Be Happy Max the favourite and goes in, but only on level stake, or level stakes with Perfect Stride and also Zeus Bromac, the 2 exciting untapped Kiwi conveyances. And if you're playing a saver quaddie, and I suggest you probably do, particularly if you're having a straight out bet on Majestuoso as well, same first leg, 3, 5, 7, 11, 12, but in the second leg this time include numbers 3, 10 and 12. Third leg, once again, 2, 4, 7, 10 and 11. And in the final leg, 1, 4 and 13. Have $50 on both of them. $50 on the main quaddie will get you 2/3 of the dividend, 66.67%. And $50 on the saver quaddie will get you 22.22%. But if you're more courageous than me, if you've got a bigger heart, a stronger heart than me, just take the main quaddie and rely on Majestuoso to get the job done. All right, there's your quaddie numbers for Super Saturday night at Tabcorp Park Melton. Time to get stuck into the remaining races on this huge, awesome, phenomenal 11-race program. And we'll start doing that by looking at race 9. It's the Always Be Mickey Breeders' Crown final at Group 1 level for the 2-year-old fillies. And this is one of the shortest price favourites all night, if not the shortest. Our Princess Tiffany will go pretty close. But Margita here. What will happen map-wise? Well, I think you'll find that Rocking with Sierra and Stars by the Beach will engage in their own war, a separate war. It's a bit like watching the F1 and watching those cars back in the field and trying to work out who's going to get past who, when it's not really a battle for the win, but more a battle for pride and potentially position in transit to try and run your best race. I think Stars by the Beach will get the opportunity to do that by firing off the arm and getting across the pole marker, but I would by no means stake my reputation on saying that will happen, because Rocking with Sierra can hunt up relatively well from gate 1. Will anything from out wide be able to come right across and get in front of everything? There's a chance, but it's small, I reckon. I think Margita will be able to kick through strongly enough to hold all those runners outside of her wide, and once she does, whoever's in front out of Stars by the Beach or Rocking with Sierra will hand up to Margita, so long as Stars by the Beach hasn't pulled very hard once she finds the front, which she can do. But I ultimately think that Margita will find the front relatively comfortably, and we can see, watching her win her Vicbred Super Series final here outside the leader, that even if she is caught parked for some reason, which I don't think will happen, she's got such a will to win. She digs deep. She's got the talent, but she has just as much heart and courage, and that's why she's only lost 1 race in her career. She finds the front here. They simply can't beat her, and the very, very short quote, the prohibitive quote, will be justified. If you're playing exotics here, I reckon there's only 3 horses you need to throw in for second. Treasure has been... Well, I've always thought the Treasure and Margita on ability were about level throughout the course of the season. I'm still sort of that opinion, but Treasure draws awkwardly here, probably has to get off the inside, spots Margita a start. It's going to be hard for her to win. 6 Amelia Rose is the one that was chasing home really hard into second behind Margita in the Vicbred Super Series final that we've just been witnessing. If she got the perfect trip, she could be dangerous. Will she get the perfect trip from gate 6? It seems exceedingly unlikely, doesn't it? And Yolant is the other one you'd be including for silver medal honours in your exotics, because we know how good she is chasing. I think she probably had to do a little bit too much work at semi-final level of this series. But if she's able to stalk and travel and then come with 1 run, you've still got the impression that Yolant is a horse with really significant ability, and one that might be able to at least run into second, or potentially a very small chance of blousing Margita. But for mine, Margita will just be winning the race. You have to play exotics here because she's so short, and play really wide for 3rd and 4th, because there are very few horses I would leave out, particularly for 4th here. I'd say potentially, not having a go at the pantheist here, but if I was playing first 4s, I reckon she'd be the only one I wouldn't be throwing in for 4th. That's how wide the race is. But there's no doubt in my mind about the winner. It will be the short price favourite, Margita, in race 9. Final of the Group 1s. On Super Saturday night at Tabcorp Park Melton is the Aldebaran Park Breeders' Crown final Group 1 level for the 2-year-old trotting fillies here. I've gone 9, 8, 11 and 13. Jackson Mee's only lost one race all season, and there's a reason for that. It's because she's ultra professional. She can run along. She drops the bit if you want her to. She's just got so many weapons in her arsenal. She's never run a very fast final half, and to be honest, going forward, it's going to be questionable. She'll have to keep on developing if she wants to be a really top filly again next season. But for the purposes of Super Saturday Night Racing, she slices through here, and I reckon she'll be in front despite gate 9 within 400-500 metres of the start. By the time they've called the lead time here, I reckon she'll be at the head of affairs, almost sure and certain, because numbers 1 and 2 here, every second counts, and I'm a Mouldy Jet will go forward and try and battle each other out to try and find the early lead. Almost everything else off the front line just restrains at the start. So Jackson Mee slices through, gets into a good position, whips around, and they'll be handing up to her pretty quickly. So Jackson Mee in front. I'm Ready Jet, I'm relatively confident was going to beat Jackson Mee in the Vic Bred Super Series final when tracking her in transit. So I'm Ready Jet is a high quality filly, and she comfortably won the alternate qualifier or preliminary for this series. Jackson Mee won hers, and I'm Ready Jet won hers. The only problem for I'm Ready Jet here, quite obviously, is the inside second line draw. Probably has to get off the inside to have a legitimate chance of winning the race. So while Jackson Mee is progressing forward to find the front, I'm Ready Jet is caught up in transit and having to make a mid-race move. On pure ability, can she win? I think she can, you know, but in terms of the map and where she'll get to, it's going to be very, very hard for her. So we can see Jackson Mee winning her qualifier for this series. In fact, her Vic Bred Super Series final, and I'm Ready Jet tracking her into the race before galloping late. And for that reason, I have got I'm Ready Jet as a danger, but I do think that Jackson Mee, under the circumstances of this race, will be winning. If you wanted one little blowout chance, it might be Dizzy's Jet, but I think the Dizzy's Jet's a nice horse without being one that could make a sustained 3-wide run or get up on the premises and sit outside the leader and win this race. And Magical goes in for 4th. She's been a filly we've known has had really good ability all season, and I can't wait to see her come back as a 3-year-old, but being off the unruly outside the draw, gate 13, can't see her winning the race. Jackson Mee should be getting the job done. I think if you play targeted skinny exotics, it's probably the way to go. In the final Group 1 on the card, and the final event on the card, is the Breeders' Crown Championship for the 4-year-old mares, sponsored by Vincent and Albar. What a horse he was. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see him on the track for long enough, the son of Art Major, but he will stamp his imprimatur at stud, particularly crossing with all those terrific Bettor's Delight mares. But we digress. Let's get into the tips for the final race in the program. 2, 7, 6 and 3 for me here. The gate speed here will be extraordinary. Often the last race in a big program can be a little bit of a snooze fest, an anticlimax. It won't be here. Charge of the Light Brigade. You've got Art Series 2, Frankincense 3, that will be firing out soon after the start. My Harmony Blue has terrific gate speed. Not sure if she'll use it. Diamond Cullen has good speed, but hasn't got the class to use it. She'll go back. Good Time Heaven has to fire out and stay in front of Nostravilla. And I think with all the speed drawn inside of her, Nostravilla might have to go back from the wide frontline draw. She was $1.40 earlier in the week. That was the wrong price for a horse who's going to face some obstacles in transit. I've ultimately settled on the fact that the extremely well-backed Art Series is the one horse that will definitely get the right run in the race, either in front or more probably behind the leader. And she was on a level pegging really with Good Time Heaven based on their runs through the British Challenge Series up in New South Wales. So with all that in mind, I just think that she's the one to beat. You're not getting the right price anymore, unfortunately, but I do think she's the one to roll here. I've got her on top of Nostravilla, who, as mentioned, I think will go back and come with one run. Makes life hard, but I tell you what, she's low flying in at the moment now. She's got some good quality racing behind her belt after that very long break. Good Time Heaven doesn't quit, so you know if she gets up to the breeze, she will try and put the leader to the sword, and there's a chance that she can win as well. And if you want to play even wider, I wouldn't totally be discounting Frankincense, who's run some magnificent races against high-quality opposition against her gender and generation, and even Nostra Beach, who draws awkwardly, but I tell you what, she's more than a fluker's chance as well. So really good race to finish the program. Hopefully we get to see just that little drift now. There's been a slight overreaction towards Art Series. She gets back out to $283 and gets to a position where we can have a bet on her, because I think she is the bet in the race. 2, 7, 6 and 3. I mentioned the bet in the race in the final event is Art Series, but the bets of the program, the best, I reckon there is one at around flip of the coin, yours for theirs, or slightly better, that you can really get stuck into. It is Majestuoso, as mentioned. He's not going to be an easy watch for anybody, but if you want to turn around and make a cup of tea, if you've got a squirmy stomach or a heart condition, then just don't watch the race and just go and collect the dividend, because I think he can come from last or near enough to and just use his extraordinary speed to win the final of the Breeders' Crown for the 3-year-old trotting colts and geldings. If you want a touch of value, I'm going with Hockham's Heaven. Pam and Russell Hockham own both of my best value selections. Maritai, I just think, maps beautifully to win the Breeders' Crown Championship for the 4-year-old Enties and geldings. If Vic gets that 3-wide card in, I can see him blowing them away. Similarly, Demon Delight, I just think at the moment is the best horse going into the marquee final of the Breeders' Crown for the 3-year-old colts and geldings. He was magnificent, awesome, freakish at semi-final level of this series. And I think he'll be in the right spot here. Just has to stay in front of Lochinvarra, which he should, and then put Max Delight to the sword, which I also think he should. Time for him to get his first Group 1 Demon Delight. I think it will be tonight. There will be multiple money races on Good Form and Punters Paradise for you to play in tonight. But I reckon if you want to target just one, stick to that race for the 2-year-old colts and geldings. I already mentioned earlier, 1, 4 and 13 level stake to run first and second. Then play a little bit wider for third, including numbers 2, 9, 10 and 11. So that combination you can see on your screen, 1, 4 and 13 into 1, 4 and 13 into 1, 2, 4, 9, 10, 11 and 13. And the critical keys there for those watching who just want to place the bet, you want Be Happy Mac to somehow get beaten, you want one of those Kiwis to win, and you want value for third. A horse like Star Hunter or You Are My Sunshine would be utterly perfect. That would make sure we got a real result out of the race. I really hope you've enjoyed this good form, long form preview for Breeders' Crown Super Saturday night at Tabcorp Park Melton. But if you've become bored with my voice, which many people have in the past, and you just want to do this digitally, all of this information that I've been talking about for the last half an hour or so, and much, much more on Punters Paradise, magnificently put together, and hopefully between Blake Redden and myself we can find a winner for you. Good luck on the program and, of course, good punting.